Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the late start this evening. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Roland Ottley. I am a physician assistant and also an attorney with the Ottley Law Firm. Thank you for joining me for my presentation this evening on the coronavirus and immunity and vaccination. First, I want to just give a quick introduction to the immune system and the coronavirus and how the immune system would normally respond to it. You have the regular immune system that is always active in your body, even when you don't have any infection. There's cells patrolling all the other cells in your body, checking their identification to make sure that those cells belong there and that those cells are also normal. That's our regular immunity. It's usually referred to as the innate immunity. And then you have the adaptive immunity, which is a more specific, a more targeted form of immunity. And this one develops after you have become infected. Now, in terms of the virus, by now, and I see that scientists are trying to persuade the World Health Organization to make note that this virus is airborne. I see many times it's only referred to as person-to-person transmission through droplets. It appears now that the experts, and I tend to agree with them, are saying that this virus is spread by airborne methods. So in addition to droplets and contact, it's also spread by airborne transmission as well. And we need to keep that in mind, and we need to promote that more so more and more people are aware of this. Now, once the virus gets in contact with you, there is a 2-day to a 14-day incubation period in which the virus just infects your cells and produces more viruses. Usually within 4 to 5 days, one who has been infected by the new coronavirus will start to display symptoms. At that point, once symptoms begin, the immune system has sounded the alarm. The immune system now will start to activate to try to prevent the virus from infecting any other cells and to remove those cells that have been infected and are producing more viruses. At such point, usually it has been reported in the scientific literature that after 10 days from the beginning of infection, the body eliminates the virus in the body. But I must say that is sort of a subject for some dispute because of what we know about the immune system in certain organs of the body, and in particular the central nervous system, the eyes, the ovaries, the testicles, and the pregnant uterus. Those organs tend to have immune privilege, and so the immune activity in those areas are not as strong initially as in other parts of the body, like in, for instance, the lungs, let's say. Okay, now I want to bring a bit of bad news. There's a lot of bad news to go around, but during this presentation, I want to bring you some good news. And I know that even if you're not infected, or even if you have been infected, people have anxiety. They have, fears of the unknown because of this virus and because it's so new and everyone's telling you that. But we do have a bit of good news, and I would like to impart that to you during this presentation. Now, the virus has mutated. We have known this for several months, okay, but it's again being addressed, and it seems as though it's not so controversial as it was when it was first presented a few months ago. So at this point now, that mutation has made the virus more infectious. The symptoms that one would have seems not to have changed. It's just that the virus is more infectious now. Now, having said that, this may be what is also contributing to the record number of cases that we've been seeing around these 33 to 38 states that are now showing increasing numbers consecutively for days of record infection with the new coronavirus and COVID-19. Now, even though we are seeing increasing numbers, those numbers are not related to the increased testing that has been taking place. Expert after expert has told us so. And what it actually has to do with is maybe the more aggressive infectious strain of the virus, in addition to those individuals not wearing a facial mask, not social distancing, and maybe not washing their hands and so forth and so on. And we've seen videos after videos where there are, mass gatherings of people who refuse to wear masks. Now, that refusal, to some degree, stems from a lack of leadership from a federal level and maybe sometimes from a state or local level. But we as individuals have to take the responsibility to lead ourselves and to do what we need to do to protect ourselves. And I'm telling you right now, wearing a mask is one of the best things that you could do to protect yourselves. Even though it may be discomfort in wearing it and you may not like to do it, but whenever you're approaching more than two people where you may not be able to socially distance yourself, put your mask on. Put your mask on. That would certainly help you to prevent from getting infected with this dangerous virus. Now, I want to go back to the immune response again. Once the person starts to show symptoms, there are two groups of cells that produce a defense against this virus. You have the B cells, which produce antibodies, and you also have the T cells, which go around killing infected cells. But it's been recently noted that the T cells also tend to stimulate the B cells to make antibodies. And these T cells also have long memory, and these T cells also respond to the coronavirus, even though you may not have been infected by the coronavirus, because these T cells respond to other coronaviruses that you may have been already infected with, like the common cold or maybe the flu. And as a result, those T cells can form a rapid defense to the new coronavirus. And the therapies that we are working on to bring to clinical trials and eventually to the public would certainly help that response in our T cells. And now, in terms of the development of a vaccine, scientists are taking the longer route. So I want to say that the vaccine that may be developed by the end of the year may be the first generation of a COVID-19 vaccine. As we learn more about the immune system's response to this virus, we will certainly develop other newer, better, more efficient means of reducing the disease that this virus could cause and eliminating the infection from this virus. This is what we hope that the science will be able to tell us as we continue, as our scientists continue to do the research. But in any event, there are 4 different ways of designing a vaccine. At one point, I didn't bother to do much research on this because it seems to me to be something that a real normal person or people who are afraid of COVID-19 would do, and would allow someone to infect them with the live form of the virus. I did hear about it. I didn't follow through on it, but that was one that was out there, but it's not a very popular one. There is the other two virus vaccines that are the inactivated virus or the weakened virus. Okay, it still has most of the viral proteins and so on, but in some way, scientists have been able to deactivate or weaken the virus so that you can get infected with that vaccine. You're going to be exposed to that vaccine, and as a result, your immune system will respond to it and respond to it in an effective way as if you were infected with the live virus, and your whole immune system would then be activated. This may work well for some people. It may not work well for others. We'll have to see just how safe it is. Then there's another design where scientists have always had other virus-like materials to use to carry genes and DNA and RNA and proteins into cells to cause them to get infected. And they have used this model to design vaccines that have DNA or RNA material in there that will produce some form of the protein from the virus that will stimulate a strong immune response. And that's another method that's being worked upon. There's also the DNA and RNA type vaccines that may use a different means of getting exposure of the cells to those particular RNA and DNA material. Okay, so that's another avenue that's being worked upon. Then there's the protein-based vaccine, which uses some parts of the known proteins of the virus, like the spike protein. That's the protein that helps the coronavirus to enter into the cells. Many of the vaccines, the 100 or so that are being developed, a lot of them focus on this spike protein to prevent the virus from even getting into the cells. But what all the scientists seem to agree upon is that we should develop a vaccine that targets all of the areas of the virus that the immune system will normally target to produce the best response, the best vaccine that we can develop. Unfortunately, I must say that it will take time because the scientists will need time to better understand what they are observing when they do the research and they answer certain questions. It then raises other questions as well. So it will take time for scientists to be able to develop a vaccine that can target all of the possible targets on this coronavirus vaccine. So at this point now, other research has noted that the antibody response may only last for about 3 to 4 months. However, the T cell response may last for a much longer time, and we do not usually routinely do T cell testing for immunity. That requires such a specialized lab to do that it's not a routine thing that we do. Hopefully one day we'll develop the technology so that it is one of those things that we also test for. Now, the other thing is that there may be more antibody testing being done because it shows, studies are showing that there may be more people exposed to the coronavirus than we really appreciate from the testing. But in any event, we're still very short of reaching to a percentage of infectious population that will render the rest of the United States sort of immune to the coronavirus. We've only tested about 5% of the population, and so we need to test and see that there have been about 70 to 80% of the people in the United States who are infected with the coronavirus, so that we could say, well, we've reached herd immunity, we've reached population immunity, where so many people are infected that the amount of new infections that would occur would be not so serious. We're just not there yet. So in the meantime, I want to say to each and every one out there to please wear a mask, because we've seen again and again that the mask does protect the transmission of the new coronavirus. Because of the low transmission, it does save lives. It does prevent those people from going to the hospital. It does prevent deaths. So this is the crucial reason why people should wear a mask at this time. Now, because of these record numbers in various states, others in states that have a stable or declining number of infections, hospitalizations, or deaths are concerned that maybe because of the travel, other people from other states that have a high infection rate now could possibly cause the same thing to happen in New York. I want to say this, that in looking at the mass gatherings that occurred in Brooklyn and Coney Island Beach and other places, it appears as though New Yorkers are more willing to wear the mask, because we have seen the results of our ability to flatten the curve when we as a community, we as New Yorkers, did what we needed to do to reduce the number of infections in New York City. Even though we've had a number of protests in New York City, our numbers are still down. I see people around my community and where I'm traveling in the New York City area wearing masks. I see people encouraging one another to do so. I don't believe that this is happening in those states that have these record numbers of coronavirus infection in their locations. I think they're doing just the opposite. So I want to really encourage all of our community members, whether in New York City or in New York State itself, and I want to encourage all of those in those states that have these record numbers of infections to please wear a mask. Save yourself, save your family, save your friend by doing something so simple, by just wearing a mask. Okay? Now, I can't end this without once again embellishing that point, making it so clear to you. It's so crucial that you must wear a mask, even if your state doesn't mandate you to do so. Your human desire, your desire to help your fellow mankind should cause you to wear a mask. Please do so. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope that everyone can stay safe, and I hope that we do not see a surge here in New York. I think we have the infrastructure to withstand that type of a surge as a result of a failed response in other states. So I hope that I am correct in that assessment, and we'll have to see as time goes by. Thank you for joining me, and may God bless you all.